AI certification course. My name is Terry Mathis. I'm one of the technical trainers for Clear One, and I'll be going over this course with you for the next hour. And it's really more of an overview of Console AI software, configuration software. We'll talk about that in just a second. We are using Collaborate Space today. That's our web conferencing software from Clear One. If you have any questions along the way, you still can interact with them, even though what we're using is classroom mode, which basically makes your mics and video muted already. But what you can do is just go up at the upper right hand corner of the app and use the little chat icon and chat questions to me along the way. If you don't have the app, you can use the browser itself, and there's a little hand raise feature at the bottom there, and the icon, you can actually ask me questions from there as well. So I'll be monitoring questions along the way. If you have anything, let me know. We do have in the attachment section, it was also in your email in the attachments, is the latest version of Console AI configuration software. So if you want to, you can kind of watch along with me if you want to. If you want to create things with me, I will create a little simple project later on. But that will show you how to do that. And that software is there for you to use if you want. No real homework or anything you get to do on this course, but if you want to play with that, you can in the background. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and mute my video for now. Let's go ahead and get started with today's session and Console AI configuration software. This is our software that is a certification course. We made this a quick little course so people who maybe kind of have an introduction to the software, and at the same time, maybe some of you is a reintroduction. This software has been around for maybe 2 years or more, and the point is that you may not have had a chance to play with it at the beginning. You don't know all the cool features that are within the software, and this whole point of this class is to show you all the different things and powerful features that are within the software itself. This is a certification course. At the end, I'll send you a link or a email with the information and a password to go take the actual exam. The instructions will be on there too. You'll just be going back to the website to sign back in, and you'll go to My Training. All the instructions will be in the email on how to do that. It's just true, false, multiple choice questions on how to learn a little bit more about Console AI. But then if you are a VIXA, if you're an VIXA provider, CTS provider, this is actually worth 1/2 credit as well. So if you do pass the class, you can just send your certificate into VIXA, and then you can under the courses, and then that way you can get your certification with there as well, or your RUs anyway. What we're going to do today is just an overview of Console AI. I'm going to show you a little bit about how to build a project offline, how to create the stack, how to connect to the stack, which is when you're connected online. We'll talk about all those things a little bit later, and how to change live values. Also give you a couple ideas of some control features that are within Console AI as well, and give you a little live demonstration on how this can put projects together. So the whole idea of this is to be able to design your systems and make it more efficient and saving you time. You'll be amazed on just how quickly you can do this, put projects together. I've been playing with this obviously for a long time, but a good, simple, basic project that we may have out there in the everyday world, I can probably do that in under 5 minutes. I mean, it's very quick and easy to be able to do that. It also is going to work with our Converge Pro 2 Converge Huddle DSPs. If you've not taken our Pro Audio class or our AV conferencing class, you may want to check those out, and we tell you more about these DSPs. But that's going to work with all those and all their expanders. All the expanders are going to be all the P-Link peripherals that can actually be connected to that. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. It can be real simple to put together and simple to use, simple to understand. I mean, especially today's world, you see a lot of some softwares can be a little more complex, maybe a little harder to understand what you're actually getting into. But to kind of give you an example how powerful Console AI is and how easy it is to create projects is because of everything's in that resource. So a good example could be like a mic line input. If I have a mic line input and I need that for a project, when you put that into the project, you will see a signal generator is right there on the mic line input. You can actually configure it as a line input. The reason we have this box, because if it's a line input, I don't need echo canceling anymore. I don't even need gating and things like that. I just want to get rid of all that. So if you check the box, it goes away. Makes it very simple to put together. Got a phantom power button. You also have a coarse and fine gain levels that you can adjust your levels. You got echo cancelers already on the mic line input. Matter of fact, every single mic line input will have an echo canceler already on it. Has a noise canceling mute. Got 4 filters that are available to you: high pass, low pass, PEQ, notch filters, things like that. And we also have acoustic gain, audio gain control, and also automatic level control. These are some features you may use in some certain sections. And if you take our pro audio class, we talked about that a little bit and show you how to use those features. Delay is there, and also gate settings. So what I'm trying to really show you is, in a mic line input, when you put that into your project, you have all of this. You don't have to do like with some softwares. You got to put in the mic line input, then you got to put in the AEC, then the noise canceller, and the filters, and the gating, if you want to use all those things. So yeah, it's kind of nice that you can only put in what you need, but in our case, you put in the one resource, it's all there. You can use it or not use it, whatever you want to do. It's already there, ready to go. So it makes it very simple. We also make sure you don't miss a step, because we also have a workflow checklist available for you when you start building your projects. You don't have to use this, but it's available to you so you can go check your work as you work along. Matter of fact, at the very end, we even give you an audit, so you can now check your project and make sure you're on the right track. That you have any errors or warnings that'll let you know if you have any kind of potential problems along the way. We also have given you some enhanced visualization within Console AI, some things like mixing blocks and boundary boxes and custom routing and things like that. So to show you a little bit about some of those, we do have a drag and drop feature. When you look at all of your resources that are available to you, all you got to do is just drag and drop it into what we call FlowView. So when you just drop that into FlowView, you're ready to go and start building your project. We also do have boundary boxes. These are just helpful visual aids to maybe put a box around certain things like microphones. And so you can put a box around there. It makes it more visually appealing to see where those things are. Do you have to use boundary boxes? No, you do not. It's just a visual thing to help you as you're showing your projects to people. We also have mixing boxes. Mixing blocks. And mixing blocks are going to help you, especially with routing. Just makes routing lines easier to look at. Instead of seeing all the different routes wherever they're going, you can just put everything into a mixing block, and it just makes it easier to look at. So, and we'll show you how that looks in the software here in just a few minutes. We also have the capability of routing, have custom routing on certain lines. So if in words you wanted to move your lines a little differently, you can custom route those to wherever you want it to go. Now you can also put things to help with routing, is to put things in a channel group. So in other words, if I have 3 microphones and I want to just put them all all together in a channel group, that way I can just put those in that group, and it makes it easier to route. So instead of routing 3 individual mics to wherever it's got to go, you can just route the group to wherever you want it to go. So it makes it a little bit easier to do that as well. You can also rename things. I highly recommend doing that. It makes things easier to understand what you're looking at. But so you can click, pause, and click. When you do that on your mouse, you're actually be able to inline be able to rename things. Or we do have a naming section where you can just click on that and just name everything in that one section. So it makes it a lot easier to work with. Now let's understand what the stack is. You may have heard me say at the very beginning about the stack. What is the stack? The stack is basically going to be C-Link devices and P-Link devices. Now what does that mean? The C-Link devices are basically going to be all the DSPs that can be linked together on a C-Link. So basically, if you had multiple DSPs you needed for a job, or multiple rooms, or whatever you want it to be, they can be all connected together in that same project. No need for even a network switch. You can just plug them all in together. C-Link out, C-Link in. It's just a daisy chain of all those C-Link devices. Same thing with the P-Link devices. Those are the peripherals. Each DSP can host its own P-Link. And when you have all those P-Link devices like beamforming mics, USB expanders, Bluetooth expanders, things like that, that's where those would come in. I'd really highly recommend you check out our Pro Audio class. We talk a lot about the P-Link and C-Link devices on that. So when you create the stack, that's going to be the resources that are available to you. So let's talk about C-Link real quick. This will support 150 channels. You can use Cat5e or 6 cable. It can be 80 feet or 24 meters apart from each other. And it's basically just connecting all the DSPs together. So if I go to one C-Link out to C-Link in, C-Link out to C-Link in, C-Link out to C-Link in. You can do that up to 12 DSPs. If you think about it, we do have a model that's called a 128. That's 12 mic line inputs, 8 out. If I do 12 mic line inputs times 12, that's 144 mic line inputs you could use. So very large jobs, you could actually use the C-Link and put them all together in this kind of fashion with no network switch required. You can also do the same thing with P-Link. Each DSP can host a P-Link. And so when I put the P-Link out there, it's just going to be a daisy chain. P-Link in, P-Link out, P-Link in, P-Link out. You can have up to 3 P-Link devices per P-Link. In other words, like a beamforming mic, I could have our BMA 360s, our beamforming mic. I could put 3 of those on a P-Link and be hosted by one DSP. By the way, try doing that with some other manufacturers. You can't really do it. You have to add more DSPs to do that. These can be up to 200 feet, 60 meters apart from each other. Use Cat5e or 6 cable, and it's not a home run connection. It's just a daisy chain P-Link in and out down the line. Now you will get power, audio, and control on the P-Link. The power is all introduced by PoE injectors. You just introduce those and that powers devices. Somewhere along the way, you will have to get more power and you insert more PoE injectors. We talk about that in our Pro Audio class, so take a look at that if you want to learn more about the P-Link and how to power it and things like that. Like I said, this will support our most newest products, especially our Conversa Pro 2, our Conversa Pro series line that also can connect to beamforming mics, so it will work with all those devices. Now, we also can select the best mode to fit your project, because in some cases you may just have a simple mode, which is what that operation mode is. That's like a single room system. But if you go to advanced room mode, that can have up to 8 different rooms in a linear fashion. So now I can actually put in, rooms A, B, C, D, and have all these different combinations available to me. Because if you take the partitions down, what combination do you want? And that will all be in the advanced mode. We do talk a lot about this in our advanced Pro Audio class, so make sure you check that out if you want to learn more about that. Now let's talk about building a project offline. So you can build this anywhere, in your office, at home, whatever you want to do and get started. So you just go up and open the software and create a new project. When you create a new project, you just name it. And when you name that, you're now going to simply create the stack. So this middle section will be empty. All you're going to do is just drag over or just hit the plus buttons right into the middle section, and that's going to be your stack. That's going to be the resources you want to use. So which DSP do you want to use? Do you have any P-Link devices that are connected to it? And that's how you create the stack. They do have some settings of the DSP. When you go to the little gear, you can go into it and rename that device if you want to. You got network information, you got VoIP and telco information, so depending on which phones you have. If you're not familiar with this, our VoIP models or V models can support up to 5 phone lines. So if you are using VoIP phone lines, you can use up to 5 of those within that system. Then you just go to the settings and say which one you're going to use. Is it a simple room? Probably 80–90% of you just use simple room. It's just a single room system. But then the advanced room is for the more divisible rooms that you may want to use as well. You choose that, and then you can use the checklist if you want. So you can open this up at the beginning and just kind of work your way down the checklist if you want. I personally do not even use it anymore because I don't needed. But if you're first time using Console AI, maybe a good opportunity to at least use that checklist to work yourself through it and make sure you're on the right track with things. All you have to do now is just go to FlowView. You'll see FlowView on the left-hand side, and this is where all the resources are available to you. You just drag it out to the middle into the section. You can also rename things, as I mentioned earlier. Just go inline or use the naming tool. I'll show you that in the software in a minute. And then if you have more than one microphone, what I do recommend doing too is putting them in a gating group. Gating groups are basically something that you want to use what we call as first mic priority, maximum number of mics on. How many mics do you ever want on at one time? You want last mic priority. You want a mic to stay on at the very end when it's gated on, and NOM, number of open mics. These are some features that we talk about in our Pro Audio class as well. But I just want to let you know that we do have a section for gating groups, so you can put those mics in a gating group. So I highly recommend that as well. Now, you can build this project. When you're building this, you can route everything in FlowView or Matrix View. So if you take a look right below there, there's Matrix View. Matrix View is just everything that's on the left-hand side is going into the DSP, everything at the top is going out of it. All you do is just make your cross point. That is your route to that device. Or you literally can get them in FlowView and just drag everything where it's supposed to go. These will mirror each other. Whatever you do in one, it will do in the other. So that's all you have to do on the routing part. You can always show the properties of a route by right-clicking it. So if you put your cursor on that route, you'll notice you can show the properties. So there's different colors, especially for mic line input. You'll see gold is a gated cross point. So that means it just can gate on and off. The mic will gate on and off as it's being used. It's voice activated. So that's where the gold cross point. Typically for conferencing, you would just use gold. You do have a blue one. That just means it's not gated. The mic will stay on. So when it's routed to that location, it just stays gated on. So that's a little different look there. You may have that for some scenarios. You just want to leave it on. And we also have a purple cross point for microphones. Purple cross points is just pre-AEC. So in other words, I don't want any latency going through the echo, the AEC filter. When it goes through the AEC filter, it actually will create a little bit of latency. So a good example of this route is when you're inside the room. So if I want this podium and lavalier to go to a processing block and go to the ceiling speakers, using it for voice lift, I would use a purple cross point. Now, a gold will work, but you're going to get latency. So that's why we use purple, and it's literally in like 1 millisecond, so it's like in real time. So that's why you would use a purple cross point. So don't get so worked up about the different colors. I just look at it as gold. Most cases I'm going to use gold anyway. That's going to be a gated cross point. You can use a non-gated, which is blue if you want to, but the point is, the only time I would probably use purple is if I'm running the audio into the room. I just want it in real time. I don't want any latency at all. That's really it. There's not a lot to that. You can also change your routes. If you click on those routes, you'll see these little buttons. You can move those buttons around, manipulate them if you want to. And you can also view what you've routed is by just putting your cursor over that device, and you will see everything else grays out, and you will see exactly where does that microphone go to, or where's that source go to. You'll see the routing where it is. Like I said earlier, you can make routing a little bit easier by putting things in a channel group. Now that's a little different than gating groups. Gating groups just making the mics work cohesively together. Channel groups, you're just putting them in a group, so it just makes it easier to route. So if I have 3 microphones and I know those mics are going to the far end, well, just put them in a group. These are all my microphones, and then so instead of having mic 1, 2, and 3 go to each wherever it's got to go, just route it once, and that makes it easier to do. So that's one thing you can do. Let's talk about echo canceling a little bit, because you are going to have to work with this when you get into the software, is to create an AEC reference. So here's how, there's a little bit of a little primer on acoustic echo. If I got room A here and I speak, that audio is going to go to room B. If room B does not have an echo canceller, what's going to happen is that audio is going to go into the room, It's going to go into that microphone. And if the speaker speaks into the microphone, all that audio is going to come back to room A. Room A will hear the speaker, but at the same time, they're going to hear themselves come back to them. It's always going to be a noticeable delay. You're going to hear that. It's also generated at the distant side. Anytime you hear echo, it's somebody else's fault because they don't have an echo canceller. You can have them mute their mics, and if you mute and the echo goes away, they are the problem. So we can find out who the problem is. So the way to fix that is just to have an AEC reference, echo canceller in that room. So if room B now has our DSP, they can say, okay, I'm going to go create a AEC reference. What is the audio I want to get rid of? I don't want to send room A's audio back to them. So what you're doing is saying, I want to create an AEC reference. I want to designate this is the audio I want to get rid of. And it's usually the audio that's coming out of the speakers. So if I've already designated that, I'm now going to say, I got my acoustic echo that's coming into the room. That's what it's the audio I want to get rid of. I don't want to get rid of the talker echo. So because I have created an AEC reference signal, I am now going to say, I'm just going to invert the signal that's coming from room A. If you invert that sine wave and the acoustic echo audio that's coming out of the room, and if you put that on top of each other, go through the filter, you will cancel it. So that's what's happening in the background, and that's what's called convergence. So the point or reason I bring this up is you are going to have to create an AEC reference in the software, and I'm going to show you how to do that a little bit later. We also do have a nonlinear processor to help suppress any residual echo that's in the room as well. So we will talk about that in our Pro Audio class. So basically, here this is the rule for echo canceling, or AEC references. What is the direct output in the room? Well, that's the speakers that have all of the audio you don't want to send to the far end. Well, the far audio I don't want to send back to them is Bluetooth receive, USB receive, and telco receive. These are just some examples of that, and nothing else. So if there's nothing else, this is a standard reference. All you do is just go to the speaker, the outputs, create a standard reference. So when you create a standard reference, you just double click this box, and then you will see your standard reference right here. All you do is check off all the mic line inputs. And when you do that, no echo. That's all you got to do. So all you're doing is taking the audio that is here, the receive audio that's coming into the room, and now you're running it through that mic line input that has an echo canceller. When you do that, no echo. That's all you got to do. Well, what's the problem with this? What if you had this? What if you ran a podium and lavalier going through a processing block and going through seating speakers, and now you got audio, some other audio going through those outputs? Well, remember the rule was, what is a direct output that's going from the far end that you don't want to send back to them, and nothing else? Well, if there is something else, you got to do something about that, because if I just kept it as a standard reference, you got to think about it. Now the wireless mics are now in that output. So if the wireless mics are part of the AEC reference and you said get rid of all of it with a standard reference, you're actually going to cancel out the wireless mics. That's self-referencing those microphones. So that's not good. So in this case, we would create a custom reference. When you create a custom reference, you're basically saying, hey, I want to get rid of the Bluetooth PC and telco, but I don't want to get rid of the wireless mics. So when you create a custom reference, you can now actually say, I want to get rid of all this, except out of the processing block is the wireless mics. And when that's the case, you put a little X out there, and that just means get rid of everything except the wireless mics. That way they can be heard at the far end. Because if the DSP is going to get rid of all this, it's going to do its job if you left it as a standard reference. But when you do a custom, you can now actually exclude the wireless mics from the AEC reference. Okay, that's what's happening. Don't worry so much about this part of it. This is a little more complex to understand, but we talk about this in our Pro Audio class. join that class and learn more about it. Now, we do have a new audit checkpoint too. That way you can check make sure you're on the right track. So if you finish your job, you can do that. And then you just go save it. Save your project and you're good to go. Some other things, as I mentioned, you can use boundary boxes, mixing blocks. You can manipulate routes and things like that. You don't have to do those things. You could just leave it like it is. But if you want to, you can. Those are visual things to make it a little bit easier to look at. The last part of this is connecting it to the stack. So now that you've created the project, you want to go connect to your gear and load your project onto it. So here's how you would do it. When you open up the software, you're going to see right here in this section, what are the devices that are connected to the network? Or if you're connected to the USB, it's on the front of the unit, you can see those as well. And all you have to do is just click on it and hit connect. When you do that, you would type in clear1 converge. That's the username password for our audio devices, clear1 converge. So when you get that, you hit OK, and now you're connected to that system and you're online. You will see up here at the top the devices, all the C-Link devices. If you'll notice in this case, there's two C-Link devices. Those are Converge Pro 128 and a 48. Those are connected together on the C-Link. But these devices are connected to the 48T on the P-Link. Those are indented right there. And that's how you would see that. So this will show you you're online and you're ready to go. Now, one of the first things it may do is prompt you that there's a firmware update for these devices. If it is, you can go to the firmware section, download your firmware updates down here. When you download them to your laptop, they'll be up here at the top. All you have to do is just hit send, and it will send those to the appropriate devices that need to be updated, and it will update them. And when they are updated, they'll come back and you're ready to go. The last part of this is to actually load the project to the stack. So now that you're connected live to this system, and again, this is one brand new right out of the box, there's nothing on it, it's just a unconfigured device, you want to load a project onto it. So you just now go to load on the left hand side, go browse for your project you created that you saved, and go hit select, and then you'll be able to load that project. You'll see green and green like this. This means everything on the left-hand side is what you're connected to. So if you're connected, your laptop's connected to that gear, that's what you're going to see. And if the project matches what you're connected to, you're able to load it. That's why you see green and green. Everything's good to go, and you can just load the project. If it's not the same, it may look like this. So now, in other words, if you look at this right here, I have a Converge Pro 48T, but I'm actually trying to load a project that's a 48 VT. That's not going to work. This has a 360. This has a BMACT, two different beamforming mics. This has a USB expander. Now I do have that, but the rest of this doesn't match. So if this doesn't match, you cannot load the project. So, which makes sense. You don't want to try to do that on something that doesn't match. Then the last part of this too is when you get loaded, you can now change your levels. You want to do a test call, you can actually go to channel properties and actually control click things. If you can hit control click, control click, control click, you'll see a complete signal flow of everything so you can see how everything looks. And this is where you may want to adjust your levels. I do a test call. You want to optimize your gain structure from your microphones to the USB transmit channels, and also from your receive channels going to the speakers. Check all that out. Make sure that everything, all the levels look good, a nominal level of 0 on the meters. Some other powerful features you can do too is use a processing block. Processing blocks are other features you can add and run things through. It's going to give you more filters, delays, even a compressor. But one of the coolest things we have on the processing block is running it through a feedback eliminator. So if you have voice lift, mics using for voice lift, you could use this feature, and this will notch out all the frequencies that are feeding back. Really cool feature to use. So that's how you can use that. Syncing properties are real easy too. So if you go to the channel properties section, you can actually control click individual mics. So if I said I want a handheld lavalier, when I control click those, they're actually collapsed. They're on top of each other. Then I can also expand them and they'll be separated. But when they're collapsed, you will see sometimes if you've changed properties on one of the devices, these little gold stripes. These little gold stripes just means one of these things is not like the other. And that's okay. You may not want them to be the same because of it's a handheld and a lavalier. But that's just letting you know that these two have different properties underneath. Now, what if you wanted them to be the same? Well, you can't actually sync them. So if you hit sync all, the little gold stripes will then disappear because you can actually sync both of those devices together when they're collapsed on top of each other like that. You can also use auto sync. So if you collapse them and you just make a change when they're all on top of each other, they will automatically be changed. You can just simply do this. Go to the first one, copy these channel properties, and then go to the second one and apply them. That's all you got to do. So you can do it that way as well. We also have another cool feature that's in Console AI is templates. You may have a microphone you use every day. You go out to every single job you go out and this is the mic you use. It could be Clear One or it could be somebody else. It could be a speaker you use in a regular output. That's of some type. It could be a VoIP signal for how you want that to be every single time. You can create templates for these things. So in this case here, I could actually have a mic, and if I've done all my settings for filters, noise canceling, ALC, and this thing works great, sounds always great, I can save that as a template. When you save it as a template, you can go out to your next job or even, frankly, the next mic in the next room or whatever you want to do, and you can apply that same template to that same microphone. Makes it much easier instead of trying to remember what made this sound good. You can go in and do that. We also do have this template editor, which you can actually go in and change your templates. So that's in the tools section. So you just go there and you can go in and check those out. Or in some cases, you can even share your templates. So if you have a bunch of templates and you want to share that with some of your partners that you work with, you can export them as a file and then they can import them as a file in Console AI. So a really cool feature. We also do have a capability with our beamforming mic BMA 360 to use it not only for conferencing, but also use it for voice lift. And also you will see a voice lift channels that are available that you can now route to certain speakers in the room. You can use like a mix minus type scenario. This is a very cool feature. It's all available in Console AI, and we do talk about this in our advanced Pro Audio class as well. So take a look at that one to learn more about voice lift. Now, what if you make changes along the way? You think about your original project that you've loaded. There was no changes. You didn't do anything like noise canceling and maybe you change the level, maybe you choose the filter or whatever. Since you changed the project now when you were live, it'll do it live. But if you wanted to keep that all the time, you do have to commit the changes to the hardware. And it'll prompt you that. If you try to exit out of the system, it'll say, wait a minute, you just made some changes. Do you want to save that and commit it to the hardware? If you do, great. And if you want to also save that as another project file, you get that capability as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. We will kind of prompt you of that when that does actually happen. We also have some control features. We do have some GPIO pins on the back of our DSPs to do that, or you can use it we have modules for Crestron, AMX, Extron, all the others that are out there. And we do have some serial command documents available for all these third-party devices, but you can also use GPIO pins. You can use things like presets. Basically, just want to re-image a room. Maybe you're using it for conferencing, but then you want to change things around, take the tables out, and you want to now make another preset and make it used for local use or something like that. So you can change presets for like that. We also have the capability of creating macros with a macro recorder or a macro wizard. We have two different ways of doing that. We also have timers. You can do things on a schedule. Hey, when this every Monday at 9 o'clock, I want you to now put this room in a conference use mode. You can actually do that. So we talk about a lot of our live control and ways to do that. You can actually do live control when you're online with the gear. You can test all your presets, macros, and timers, and dividers, and everything. Those are things you can do. But we talk more about this in our advanced Pro Audio class, so don't worry so much about it in this class. But if you want to learn more about it, take out that advanced pro audio class. So very efficient and easy to create. So let's show you how easy it is to create in quick little projects. So I'm going to do a little quick live demo here for you, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my software. I'm going to swipe over in my presentation. You should see my my DSP now. I'm sorry, my my Windows screen. So if you're not, let me know. But this is my Windows screen. You'll notice up here at the top is this little blue C. That's the Console AI software. I'm going to double click that and give you a quick little overview of how to create a project. I'm just going to do a little simple one here for now. All right, and here we go. Let me see if I got, yeah, just one. So a quick little overview. First of all, you'll see you got Huddle and Converge Pro 2. So in other words, you could do like a whole boardroom that is Converge Pro 2 DSP, but you may have some little huddle rooms you want to do. You can configure all of that with the same software, so it makes it easy. This little section here, you will see what is available on the network. So in other words, I do have two systems here that are in my project, in my system here in my home office. I have a 48V that's doing this project, it's my 360 demo, and then I have a 48T, which is my little road demo V8, what I call this one. These are just two different systems that are running, and these will auto-populate when you're on there on the network. These will also populate too if you are connected to the USB on the front of the DSP. So in other words, you may not have a network yet in that facility. So what you can do is just grab your USB cable and plug it to the front of the unit, and that way you can actually connect to it that way as well. So this is where they'll auto discover. You can also do a direct connect in some cases. You may say, well, this may be on a subnet. I can't really, my laptop's not seeing the address. You could type in the IP address of that, and that's where it would populate there as well. This is kind of like the most recent section over here. So in other words, if you just said, hey, well, I want to go grab this project that I just played with, and this one right here, I can just open it up. And this comes in handy versus doing this. If I go up to the top here, I can go open and I can go find the project I want to find. But if you just recently opened it, you can say, well, I just opened this right here, open it up. You're done. So that's where that is. Here at the bottom, same thing, most recent connections. So you may have multiple things you're connected to. Instead of having to go find it and you know which one it is, just go click it and say connect. You're done. I'm going to connect to these in a few minutes. First of all, we just want to go create a project. So you'll notice here at the top, we got a file, we got new and open. Open a file or create a new one. So I'm going to go create a new one. We also have the icons for this as well. I'm going to create the new project to Converge Pro 2, hit OK. Now this comes up and gives me the stack section. And this is where you would create the name of the stack. I'm just going to call this demo 1. So if I go demo space 1, notice it does not like spaces. You'll see this little red here. Spaces are not allowed. So I have to either use a dash or underscore. So demo underscore 1. So I'll call this demo underscore 1. Now on this side is where I can actually create my C-Link devices that I want to use. I can either, here I'll use this 48T. I can grab it and drag it into the middle, or I can just simply hit this little plus here and it'll just bring it out as well. So it shows that is my stack of what I want to use. I can go change this name. I can go to the gear here, and actually if I have this 48T, if I don't want to say, well, I don't need underscore 1 because I only have one device, that's these are default names. In other words, I could say, well, I got underscore 48T 1, I got 2 of them, I got 3 of them, I got 4 of them. You notice it's got underscore 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where you can do that. So these can all be on the C-Link if you need to use them. You also have a little garbage can here just to get rid of those since I don't need them because I only got the one. I'm going to go hit a little gear, and this gets where I can just say, well, I don't really need this. I'll just call it a 48T. You don't have to rename it. You can just leave it like it is, but it just makes it simpler sometimes, especially when you see default names will come up. And it keeps adding that underscore 1 to all that. So I just keep mine cleaner. That's the reason I do it that way. When you're live with the system, you actually will see the fan speed and the CPU temperature and power supply temperature. It'll be live information there for you as well. As well as the serial number will auto-populate when it's live with the system. Network, where you can do DHCP or static, may need a static IP. The IT professional may say, yeah, we're going to use a 192.168.110.15, whatever the case is. You just go in here and they're going to type all this information to get it on the network. So that's where you would see that section. Telco, notice this is a T model. It's a 48T. So if it's a T model, I do have a telco section. So this is where I can go say, well, this is how do I want the telco to work? You want auto answer, disconnect? How do you want the ring type to be? What's the vowel tone level? What's the phone number? What's the country code? This is all the information you would put into there and make that work. Okay, so that is your C-Link device of the stack. What about your P-Link? Well, let's just say we are going to use a 360 here, our BMA 360, and I can now either drag this on top of that, or since this is already highlighted, I can just hit the plus. So there it is. There's my 360. Now remember too, as I said, you can have 3 of a kind. I can have 3 of each device. So if I wanted 3 beamforming mics, 1, 2, 3. There they are. Notice that the beamforming mics are now whited out now. You can't put any more in. It's because you're limited to 3 of a kind. So that's where that actually is. By the way, even though you may not think too much about it, this is a big thing compared to some other manufacturers. You go to other manufacturers, you add 1 DSP here, you can only put 1 beamforming mic on it because they need the processes of that DSP to work. So then if you wanted to have more, you got to add another one and another one. So it adds a cost factor to your project file. In this case, only 3 can be used per DSP. You can also maybe add like a Bluetooth expander. Let's just put that on a P-Link as well. And I'm going to put a Bluetooth expander here as well. And that's another P-Link. By the way, the only difference, everything you can have 3 of a kind except a Bluetooth expander is the last thing on a P-Link. We talk about that in our Pro Audio class. So if you think about it, here's my stack. I got a 48T. I got 4 mic line inputs, 8 out. Got USB, got telco, got all these cool things I can use. I have a beamforming mic, it's in the ceiling. I also got a Bluetooth expander to do calls. While I'm here, by the way, if you remember, I can do this little gear and rename the DSP. I can do the same thing with the P-Link devices. So if I just wanted to say, I just forgot 1, it doesn't matter. BMA 360, good enough. And I got a Bluetooth expander. I'll just call it simply a Bluetooth. Good enough. Hit OK. So there is how you can do some renaming in the stack. So far so good? So I've created my stack. Now I'm going to hit OK. When I create OK, hit OK, this now takes me to FlowView. This is kind of like a virtual sheet of paper. And all you're going to do now is create and put things on your sheet of paper. Everything on the left-hand side is all the resources that are available to you on the stack. If you think about it, here's my 48 model, 4 mic line inputs, 8 out. So there's the mic ins and outs. What else is on the back of the unit? I got USB, it's on the back. I also have telco that's on the back. I also have speakers. Our 48 models do have 2 speaker posts on the back for 2 speakers, 10 watts per channel. So that's where you'd see that as well. But what else shows up in the stack? Not only do you have the DSP stuff, but you also get the beamforming mic because it's on the P-Link. What else shows up? You get the Bluetooth expander because it's on the P-Link. And what else shows up? Well, every time you have a DSP, you will get 8 processing blocks. Remember the processing blocks for feedback elimination and stuff like that? That's where that would be. You get 8 faders. You also get, since we do have a beamforming mic, if you're not familiar with it, we do have on the 360, you can connect 4 speakers to that. There's an amp on the back of that unit, 15 watts per channel, or in bridge mode, 30 watts for 2. So if you wanted to use that, you can actually use the speakers from the 360. So that's how you can actually power those speakers. You also get a gating group. Remember we talked about gating groups. I went to mics all work cohesively together. So that's where that would be. So all your resources are right here. So if I have a room that has a BMA 360, just a simple job to do conferencing, I can now go up and grab my 360 and drag and drop right into FlowView. When I drag my 360 into that, I now can have that as a resource. I can put it anywhere I want, doesn't matter, but I'm just going to put mine right here for now. You can also say, well, if I'm going to use the 360, I want to use that for USB calls. So I'm going to plug in my laptop, do Zoom, Teams, Space, WebEx, whatever I want to do. I can now go grab my USB and now drag that into the project as well. Notice you get a little line here. You can center things up. So if I want to put this here, I'm going to put my USB right here at the bottom, drop it. Now notice what you see here. You got USB receive, RX, and USB transmit, TX. So that's what my two things I have. In this case, in this scenario, I want my beamforming mic to go out to the transmit channels. So what I usually do, I like to have mine like this. I'm just going to go grab my cursor, I'll just hold down my left button on my mouse here, and just go grab this, because they're highlighted, and drag them over. So I'm going to go drag over my transmit channels over to this side. That's where I'm going to do that. The reason I do this is I like to see everything in a linear fashion. Later on when I route, I'm going to say I want my 360s to go to these transmit channels. And that's why I do it that way. It's just, to me, visually easier to keep up with. You can do whatever you want, but that's the way I do it. All right, so there's my USB. Let's just say in this case here, we are going to just, we're not using telco, but we'll just use the Bluetooth expander just to keep it simple. I'm going to use the Bluetooth expander so I can do calls with that as well. And I'm just going to go drop this and center it wherever I want it, and I'll drop it. So there's my Bluetooth expander receive, and then I also have transmit. So I'm going to put my transmit over here as well and line it up. So far, so good. Now, in this case, let's just say I wanted to use the speaker, the amplifier that's on the 48T. I want to use the speakers that's on the back. I could use the 360 speakers if I wanted to. I could even use an output that's going to feed an amp. I could use a line out, goes into an amplifier, and feed those speakers. But in this case, I'm just keeping it simple. I'm going to use the speakers 1 and 2 that are on the back of the 48T. And I'm going to use that in the front of the room, or like in the ceiling speakers, or wherever I want it to be. So let's just say I'm just going to use it for like a left and right, or something like that. I'll just pretend that's the way I'm doing this particular job. And I can just line things up like that. So this will be my left and right speaker. Okay. Before I get too far here, first of all, I want to show you how you can fit to page. So notice this is like here, I can zoom things in. So if I want to zoom in a little bit or zoom out, you can do things like that. But if you hit fit the page, it'll always just fit the page of what you have that set up for. By the way, you can't even hide your resources, and you can say fit the page again. So there you go, it looks like that. But if I bring my resources back in, I can say fit the page, and that'll do that. You can always readjust that as well if you need to. Now, one other feature I will probably bring in, and I'm not going to, I just want you to get in the habit of using this, is the last thing is gating groups. There's some really cool features inside of this. I want you to take a look at our Pro Audio class that teaches you more about gating groups. But the whole idea of this is to make all the mics work cohesively together. Well, in this case, I really only have one mic, but it doesn't hurt it to do it. And I'm going to go ahead and put one in. And I'm going to bring in a gating group for that. If I double click the gating group, this will show you, I want to use first mic priority. Really cool feature in Clear One's DSPs. How many mics do you want on at one time? Well, I only have one, so I'll just leave it at one. And do you want last mic priority? I'm just going to leave it off for now. Now, you can't add the mics to the gating group from here, so I can just go click the 360 and hit OK. But let me show you an easier way of doing this. I'm just going to zoom into this section, and let me show you another way of zooming. If you highlight the section you want to concentrate on, just grab your cursor and just highlight that little section. Notice right here it says fit to selection. So if I do this, it goes right there. Now, you don't have to do that. I'm just doing this so you can see this better on the screen. So notice here's the gating group. Right now, I don't have the mic in the gating group, but here's how you can actually do it. This is probably the easiest way to do it. So if you look on this side here, you see the 360. Here is this little gating group icon. All I got to do is just go grab that, drag it over, done. There it is. Now the mic is in the gating group, and there it is. So I just want to at least show you that. That's probably the easiest way to put them in the gating group, is just go highlight all the mics that you have and then stick them in. I've only got the one. I didn't have to highlight it. I just dragged it over. So that was it. So it doesn't matter. So I want to at least show you how to do gating groups. You're not going to probably spend too much time with a single microphone like this, but I want you to at least see that. I'm going to go fit the page again and go back to this section. Now, I can go in here and click, pause, click. If I wanted to rename my 360 to something else, I can go down, I could do that. I could want to go into the USB and just call this PC, click, pause, click. I could rename it here. Or you go up here to the naming section, upper left-hand corner, you'll see it says naming, a little icon up there. If I hit naming, this will bring up the page to go name everything. So I've already named the 360, I already named the Bluetooth. Let's go name this USB. Instead of being called that, I'm just going to call this PC. So in other words, I'm going to plug my PC into the USB, and that's what I want that to be called now. If you just hover your cursor over it, it'll tell you what that is. That's the USB. It's on the back of the 48T. If I hover this, that's the VMA 360. It's connected to the 48T. If I hover over this, this is the Bluetooth that's connected to 48T. So you'll see everything there. If I wanted to go to my speakers, I could just go click on here and say I want to call this speaker left, and I'll call this speaker right. Good enough. So that's how I want to name everything. Hit OK, name. So first of all, create the stack, rename them, and then what you're going to do is just go route. Now I can go in FlowView and just start routing, 1, 2, 3, just route everything. Now let me show you another quick feature that's available. I'm going to go highlight this little section here. Notice I got a PC left and right. We're going to give you the receive, transmit left and right, Bluetooth left and right as well. So if it's really the same thing, it's just going to be a mono signal anyway. I can just put these together in a group. So if you notice here at the bottom, you'll see group. If I go down to group, I can drag group up here. And now just say, instead of this being called group 1, I can call this PC underscore RX. In other words, this is my PC RX section. And what I'm going to do is just go grab my left, drag it up. Grab my right, drag it up. Now you have a group called PC RX that has the left and right in it. So in other words, instead of me individually routing each left and right to where it's got to go, I can now just route a single route. So it makes it sometimes easier just to route that way. So that's one thing you can do. You can also do it this way. So if you go grab your right channel of the Bluetooth, I can put it on top of the left and it creates a group. So I can call this BT underscore RX. So under this is now my left and right channel. So you can do it that way as well. If I go fit the page again, I'll go over to my transmit section. Let me show you another way to do this. I can just right click on the page. So if you go anywhere and just right click, I can say I want to create a group. So I create a group, I can put the group right here. I'll call this PC underscore TX. Transmit. Grab these, stick it up there, there you go. So again, you don't have to create a group, but sometimes it just makes it easier and a little bit less confusing looking when you can create a group like that. So just kind of keep that in mind. Moving things around just a little bit. All right. All right, so far so good. All right, so let's route things. I can route here in FlowView, so if you'll notice the little circle here, zoom in on this. Notice the little circle. I got a little cross on there. All you do is just grab the cross and drag it to wherever you want it to go. So I'm going to go grab this cross and go to transmit, PC, transmit, Bluetooth. So now my 360 will go out to the far end. What about the audio that comes back to me? When they speak back to me, I need to be able to hear them. Let me show you another way to do this. I can just go lasso the whole section there. So I can select the whole section and lasso the speaker left. I want the PC and the Bluetooth to go speaker left and speaker right. Where I want that to go. So now you have that all set up. If you drop these down, you'll see that there's your left and right going to the left and right, and left and right going to left and right. Again, that's a mono signal, so I don't really care about in stereo. So that's where you can actually do that. By the way, if you go look in matrix view, I'm going to go over to the left-hand side of matrix view and drop down. You will see in matrix view, this is the routes. In other words, my 360 is going to PC transmit and Bluetooth transmit. That's the gold cross points. Remember I showed you that earlier? If I take these off, just click on them and click them off. Notice if I go back to flow view, they're gone. They will mirror each other. Whatever you do in one, it will do in the other. So if I say I want to go to PC and Bluetooth again, gold cross points, and go back to flow view, there it is, back. Okay. All right, so that is how you do routing. Now, one other thing about routing always you want to make sure of is make sure you do cross routing. So in other words, my PC is going to the speakers. I hear them in the room, but I want to make sure the PC receive goes to the Bluetooth transmit as well. You may have two different calls on the same time, so that way they can hear each other. So you're going to send your Bluetooth PC to your Bluetooth and your Bluetooth to your PC. So that way they can hear each other. These are cross routings like that. So make sure you do that. All right. So that is that part. Now that you got everything routed, remember when I showed you this, I can put my cursor over this and this will say 360 is going out to the far end. That's great. PC receive goes to speakers and Bluetooth. Bluetooth goes to speakers and PC. Well, that's great, but now this audio is coming into the room, but it's going to go right back into this open mic and go back out to the far end. They're going to get echo. So how do we fix echo? Well, what is the direct output in the room? Direct output in the room is the speakers. Those speakers have PC and Bluetooth receive audio in it. So I need to get rid of that so that they don't get that at the far end, back going through the microphone and send it back to them. You just go to this pencil. When you go to the pencil, you create a standard reference. When you create a standard reference, you just double click this box, and this is the audio. This is a little cheat sheet over here on the side. We're saying what's the direct output in the room, left and right. That has all the audio you don't want to send far in, nothing else. Well, that's Bluetooth and PC. That's a standard reference. I created it, and now I just assign that to the 360 that has the echo canceller on it. No echo. That's all you got to do. That's how you do that. Now, some of you maybe say, well, what about the right channel? Well, you don't have to do it because the DSP already knows the output it's using. It has that in it. But if I used both, you're saying, hey, speaker left and right have both of this audio in it. But if you put both of them in there, you'll notice you can only use one. You don't need them both. So that's why you just do the one there. There are some scenarios where you could use two, and you may have to. We talk about that in our Pro Audio class. Take a look at that. All right, so that's a little bit. Now I have no echo. Now, this could work as is. If I could go up here at the top, I can save this as demo number 1 and just save it. I say, okay, that's done. I've saved it. So this would work as is. But some of you may say, well, I don't want to have all these lines. I call this spaghetti. Looks like spaghetti, doesn't it? So I don't want to have that. Well, I can use a mixing block. Go down to the bottom left-hand corner, you will see mixing blocks. I can go up here at the top, go do this. I can say I want to call this, mics _to _transmit. That's my mic to transmit section. If I can go up here, I can go grab this. I can go route my microphone to the mixing block now, and I can go grab my transmits and send that to the mixing block. But now notice what I've done now is that everything's going to the mixing block instead, and if I double click the mixing block, it'll show you the routes underneath. So keep that in mind. Also, don't forget this. I'm going to go ahead and just show you this real quickly. I'm going to be running out of time here in just a second, but I'm going to go right click this, delete the route, and delete the route. Right click and just delete it. That's how you can do that. Some of you may do this, and by the way, you can go down the bottom and grab the mixing block, or you can right click and just say create mixing block. So if I do this and I call this just like I did earlier, mics _to _transmit. Some of you may do this. Yeah, I want a mixing block. I'm gonna go grab that. I'm gonna grab this and go to mixing block, and you'll say good. And then you go load your project later and it doesn't work. Well, why doesn't it work? It's because underneath it, you didn't route it. I did it in reverse. I routed everything first, then put in the mixing block. That's why it worked. In this case, if that's the case, you just double click this and say, well, I want this 360 to go to the transmit channels. Done. Now it works. So just keep that in mind. I could do the same thing, and I'm going to just kind of keep time. I want to kind of keep time as quick as possible, but I could do the same thing. Go grab my receives. This is going to be this little middle section. Go grab my transmits. By the way, notice how that just jerked off this page. If that ever does that, instead of going down here and scrolling, you just go fit the page. There you go. You're back where you were again. Go down here and create another one. I'm doing this very quickly just for time purposes. I'm gonna grab my receive channel, go to here, speakers, go to here. So you can kind of see how I've kind of cleaned this up a little bit where you don't have the little spaghetti all over the place. So you don't have to worry about that. But it still works. So put my 360, put my cursor over it. Where's it go? PC, Bluetooth, and it has a AEC reference from speaker left. Where's the PC go? Bluetooth and speakers. Where's Bluetooth go? PC and speakers. So you see everything where it goes. Okay. You can go one more step if you wanted to. You don't have to, but I could go down and grab boundary boxes. So if you go down to the bottom and just your right-hand corner, left-hand corner, you go grab a boundary box. Just go put it over the section you want to use. So if I wanted a section for microphones, I could go in here and say, well, this is my mics. Here's the color I want to use. I could go up here and go click this and put mics. And when you click on that box, on the text like that, you'll see these little buttons, and you can grab these little buttons and drag them to wherever you want, resize the box. And what's cool about this is now that you have a little section like this, when you click on the text, you can now drag that anywhere you want. You can say, I'm going to want to put these over in this little section here. I want to put them down here, wherever you want to do. So you can now drop these wherever you want to make those work out for you. So that's just a quick way of showing you how the boundary boxes work. Now, fit to page. Do I have to have mixing blocks and boundary boxes? No, I don't have to. Do I have to go, yes, and click on these little arrows and make this as, can manipulate the routes? No, I don't have to. But sometimes you may want to use that in some particular way to do those things for visual purposes. So that's where that could come into play. Okay. Then I would say, now that I've made some changes, and by the way, if you've gone in and make some changes, like if you said, I want a noise canceller on this, and maybe, well, we'll do that in just a second. Let me show you this part first. This up here at the top, notice is the workflow checklist. The workflow checklist is where you can use this as you work along. So in other words, did I add a DSP? Did you? Well, we did. We added the 48T. But if you started with this, you may not know where to go first. So all you do is just, oh, where is that again? So if you go to here, it'll actually take you to the stack. Oh, this is where I add the DSP. Yeah, that's right. I remember doing that. Did I do it? Yes. Did you add a P-Link device? Where's the P-Links? Well, P-Link's over here. That's all the P-Link device. Did you do that? Yes. Did you add partitions? No, we did not. This is a single room system. So if you remember in settings, this is where you can have a simple room or advanced room. In this case, it's just a simple room. So go back to this. So we're good with that as well. So did you add resources? Did you add channels? Yes. Did you name things? Yes. Did you add a reference? Yes, we did that under the speaker there. Did you add a gating group? Yes. Even though it's only a single mic, we did add a gating group. Did you add channel groups? Yeah, channel groups are like these things here. Did you add network parameters? You know, that's really the DHCP static. That's just so you can actually connect to it if you wanted to, because on the network, you need that. You may need to do some network things for VoIP. as well. So these are some things it's just really checking on. Did you do it? Did you do your VoIP configuration? We did not use VoIP. So I can just X that out. And did you save it? Well, we'll do it one more time. Save the project. And did you audit it? Audit? No, I did not do that. What is that? Right at the bottom, run the project audit. This will now let you know everything's good. So far, so good. No errors, no warnings. You're on the right track. So that's where you see these little green boxes. Maybe yellow or red if you have an issue, something you need to take a look at. So that's where you can do that. So now I've created this project, but now I'm going to go connect to the project. This is how you can load your project to the stack and do your gain structure and things like that. So we basically walk through this with you. The whole workflow checklist is up here at the top, upper left-hand corner. You just click on that and you can work right along with it if you want to. Okay. Now that I've saved this though, let me show you how to connect to a system and then we're going to wrap this up. I can go to this BMA 360 demo. This is a demo kit I have on my system. It would say unconfigured if it was a brand new out of the box project. So when you click on that, you just hit connect. When you hit connect, you type in Clear1 Converge. That's all you do and you connect to it. Here's how you can, a little shortcut for this. Instead of typing, if you don't like to type like me, if you hold down Alt and Control on your keyboard and you hit connect, it types it in for you. So you don't even have to type that. So you hit OK. This will now connect to the device that you're actually connected to on the network or the USB. Remember, it's on the front of the unit. You may not have a network yet. So if you can connect it to the USB on the front, you will now see it live. It will be in front of you. So when you get it live, you actually will see a signal flow coming through. When I finally get it to flow view here in a minute, when it finally comes up, you will see the equipment here at the top. So you'll see I got a 48V. I have a 360 and a Bluetooth expander on the P-Link. Got network information. You got some admin things you can do, restart, save the project. You can do log files here as well. This is your firmware update section. So if you have firmware updates, you could go down here and actually check this box and download it to your laptop. And after you've downloaded it, you would then run it in the devices that need firmware updates. So this is how you can do those firmware updates. When everything's updated, you would just go to load. So now notice it says I am connected to a 48V 360 and a Bluetooth expander. So that's what I'm connected to. So if I wanted to load a project on there, I can go to Browse. Let's just say I wanted to go grab the one I just did. That was today, Demo 1. Hit OK. No, I cannot do it because this project is a 48T 360 Bluetooth. I am connected to a 48V 360 and Bluetooth. So those would not work. I cannot do that. In my particular scenario, the project I actually have is this right here. If I hit this, note it's green and green. So I have a 48V 360 Bluetooth expander. I can connect to that. I can now load the project to the stack. When you load it to the stack, it'll go to flow view and then you'll be able to see your live signal going through the signal like that. I'm not using this particular system for my call today. I'm just using a speakerphone. But the point is that you can see the signal flow go through there. I could even go to matrix view. I'm sorry, to channel properties here, and I can control collect things. So if I say I got my 360 and I'm going to go out to the PC transmit, I want to make sure it's going out to the far end. And I also want to make sure that my USB audio, my USB receive audio, and there's that would be coming in, would be going to the speakers. So that's how you can actually show the complete signal flow going through there. Now, one thing to keep in mind, notice I've actually adjusted my levels. I'm up 8 dB here. I think I've got up 5 dB on this. When you make changes, it'll do it live for you. But if you wanted to keep that signal all like that all the time, you do have to go up and say, I want to commit these changes to the hardware. Because think about it, your original project did not have those settings. But if you change the settings, you now want to commit these live values to the hardware that it does it all the time. Because if you were to reboot your system, it's going to come up and it's going to show the original settings. So if you now commit changes to the hardware, it'll now keep those every single time. Matter of fact, we even give you an opportunity to resave that too. So when you hit that, it'll say, do you want to save it as another project? So in other words, your original project is demo 1. Your other project may be called demo 1 with live values, whatever you want to call it. Or you can just leave it this demo 1 as well. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. But that's how you can actually make those changes. Okay. When you're also live, you can also do this live button up here. This will help you to, and I don't really have too many in here, but you can execute presets, macros, and things like that. You can do live control of things to make sure it's doing what you want it to do. Okay. Now, this is kind of a full-on training on just the configuration software. There's probably a lot of things I went too fast on, and you say, boy, I wish I could learn more about that. That's why we have the other classes. This is an introduction to the software. You want to learn more about how to create these projects. Take our AV and Pro AV and Advanced Pro AV courses to learn more about them if you haven't already. Okay? All right. So keep that in mind. Sign up for these classes if you need to. Those will have, matter of fact, we even also have our Convergence AV Manager Certification course as well. That's another good course. All right. Any questions that you may have before we wrap up here? I do appreciate your time today. I will be sending you this presentation right after the training. That way you have a copy of it for a resource. And then I'll also give you the directions on how to take the exam, and that way you can go take the, it's true, false, multiple choice, and then when you go take the exam, and by the way, you can even use this as a resource as well, so it's kind of an open book test if you want. But when you do that, you'll get you'll see that you completed the course. You can download your certificate on our website, and also if you are a AVIXA certified, and you want to send that in for a 1/2 credit, you can submit that into your AVIXA account. All right, any questions? All right, I appreciate everybody's time today. Look forward to seeing you in some other future webinars in the future. Everybody have a good rest of the day. Talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.